First tonight at 5, a woman in custody for the death of a Schenectady baby over the weekend that prompted an Amber Alert. Details on the charges she's now facing.
Plus, following that tragic death tonight, we learn why it's prompting calls to improve the family court system in New York State.
New polling shows Americans are feeling better about the economy. I'm Atra El-Nashar with who they say they trust to keep it on the right track.
CBS 6 News starts now.
Horrifying details being released from Schenectady police regarding the death of a 10-month-old baby girl. Halo Branton found down a 10-foot pipe Sunday afternoon on the GE campus.
Her mother is being accused in that death, and we have team coverage tonight. We'll begin with CBS 6's Ashley Kusakonki live in Schenectady. Ashley, when Halo was found, she never regained her vital signs. Ashley, thank you. And following the death of Halo, questions now being raised about the welfare of children in general and if the systems in place are working to protect them.
Our team coverage continues tonight. Tom Eschen joining us now live outside Schenectady Police Headquarters. And Tom, what have you learned? Tom, thank you. Former President Donald Trump once again seeking to delay another one of his criminal trials, this time in New York City for his hush money case. The former president seeking to delay the trial until the Supreme Court rules on Donald Trump's claims of presidential immunity he's raised in his other ongoing criminal cases. Trump's lawyers say the alleged acts in the hush money case in New York overlap with his time in the White House and could be protected if the former president is ruled immune from prosecution. New York State Department of Education Commissioner Betty Rosa says the state needs 1 to 2 years to work on the foundation aid formula. This as the governor proposes immediate changes to school aid in her 2025 budget proposal. The governor's proposal would shift foundation aid to the school districts with the highest need and cut funding for about half of the districts in New York State. It's met with controversy on both sides of the aisle. For a long-term solution, Rosa says she hopes the state can create a landing or a runway that helps school districts get to a better place.
Obviously, we have to do a lot of modeling with that so that we get to a formula that really, truly responds and answers the needs of our students.
Governor Hochul's budget director says because of higher than anticipated revenues, there might be a compromise on the way for education funding.
Still to come, polling showing improvement in feelings over the economy.
After the break, we share the results of that poll and who folks are trusting to help keep this growing economy headed in the right direction.
And coming up in sports, Siena women's basketball preparing for the MAC tournament. What the players and Coach Jaber have to say about their tournament chances.
Sky's nice and clear out there, but boy, that wind is still howling.
A number of proposals are on the table to address New York's Raise the Age law, with many officials on both sides of the aisle saying was passed in 2018 but was implemented in an incomplete way.
New York was one of the last states still putting people under 18 in adult courts and detention facilities. Raise the Age steers 16 and 17-year-olds away from those and towards family court and juvenile detention facilities instead. CBS 6's Tom Eschen caught up with District Attorney candidate Lee Kinlan to learn his thoughts on the law and what legislators are doing about it.
Watch it as temperatures very modestly cool back into the 40s early next week.
Steve, thank you. The White House updating its outlook on the economy as Biden's economic team paints an optimistic picture of the job market, GDP growth, and declining inflation.
A new poll shows Americans are feeling better, too, but as national correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports, they are reluctant to credit the White House.
When it comes to the economy,
Sports is next with AJ, but here's a look at what's ahead at 5:30. Assessments for Capital Region properties for many appear to have skyrocketed.
Why it's prompting concerns for those residents and their taxes and how one lawmaker is pushing to address it.
Plus, a New Jersey senator in court today pleading not guilty to new charges. Details on the latest charges he's facing.
And a sex trafficking survivor cited in a GOP State of the Union address response, speaking out why she says her story and others like it are becoming politicized.
It's for you in sports at 11. Guys, back to you.
All right, AJ, thank you. Still to come at 5:30, growing concerns over lithium-ion battery fires.
Yeah, and tonight's Spotlight on America, we investigate if the government needs to do more to regulate the product used in so much modern tech.
And in your consumer report tonight, we explain how you can cut down on any unexpected monthly payments.
And first at 5:30, your top stories and weather headlines. Here's what you need to know.
A Schenectady mother charged in connection to the death of her baby over the weekend, who was found down a 10-foot pipe on the GE campus in the city. She's facing both murder and manslaughter charges.
The Education Department says the state will need 1 to 2 years to assess funding for education. The current proposal from the governor will shift aid to schools in need.
Former President Donald Trump once again seeking to delay another one of his criminal trials, this time in New York City for his hush money case. He says the alleged acts overlapped with his time in office and could qualify for presidential immunity.
In-depth coverage on all of these stories online. Just head to CBS6Albany.com. And in a story we brought you Friday, across the region and the state, some Capital Region residents are telling us their new property assessments are thousands of dollars higher than anticipated.
And for many of those people, that means higher taxes. In Albany, for example, residents are getting their first property assessment since 2016. The city assessor says the market has changed considerably since then, and this is a way of making taxes more equitable, as half the population will receive lower taxes. But those needing to pay more say this will cause them to reconsider their current living situation. This causing State Senator Jake Ashby to propose legislation to allow counties to make living here more affordable.
New York is one of the few states in the country that still requires counties to help pick up the tab for Medicaid. What this bill would do is it would take counties out of that equation, right? Saving roughly $2.5 billion.
This legislation drawing the support of Albany County Democrat Dan McCoy, among others. Senator Ashby says to avoid any impact on state income tax, the state needs to spend more efficiently. President Biden on the campaign trail today, touting his achievements in office so far on the 3rd anniversary of signing the American Rescue Plan into law.
Money went directly to every single town in America so you could decide how best to spend it without having to go through the State House or a governor. We trusted you.
Addressing thousands of local leaders during the annual National League of Cities conference, President Biden says the American Rescue Plan launched the nation into a historic economic comeback. Every Republican in Congress voted against the measure, arguing the nearly $2 trillion price tag was too high. GOP critics have often pointed to the American Rescue Plan as a driver of inflation in the U.S. The woman whose story Senator Katie Britt appears to have shared during the GOP State of the Union response says lawmakers often use the issue of human trafficking for political purposes. That's what Carla Jacinto tells CNN. She says she told her story of being trafficked at 12 years old many times before. Britt hinted it came on President Biden's watch, but Carla says this all happened many years ago when George W. Bush was in office.
I work as a spokesperson for many victims who have no voice, and I really would like them to be empathetic. And I think she should first take into account what really happens before telling a story of that magnitude.
Carla says she met the Republican senator at an event on the southern border while she was with several other officials. She also says it happened in Mexico, not in the U.S., as Britt implied, and she was trafficked by a pimp, not the Mexican drug cartels. Britt's office told the Washington Post that Britt's story was not misleading.
All right, take a close look at your credit card bill. Maybe you'll find a few surprises in the form of forgotten monthly subscriptions.
And if you're tired of paying for the ones you no longer use but can't quite figure out how to cancel, then you're not alone. In your Consumer Report, CBS 6's Julia Dunn has ways to slim your subscriptions and save you some money.
From Netflix, Hulu.
But it could soon be easier to end unwanted subscriptions. Last year, the Federal Trade Commission proposed a click-to-cancel provision that would require companies to let you cancel subscriptions as easily as you were able to sign up, which has yet to pass.
Still to come in all new tonight, growing concerns over lithium-ion battery fires.
In tonight's Spotlight on America, we investigate if the government needs to do more to regulate the product used in so much modern tech.
Plus, a criminal probe of Boeing now underway from the Justice Department. How the airline manufacturer involved in January's door blowout is responding.
And we'll share some shocking incidents on Boeing flights just over the past several days alone. Consumers and cities across the country investing heavily in e-bikes and other devices with lithium-ion batteries, even as firefighters say they've become a serious risk to public safety with little regulation.
And Spotlight on America correspondent Chris Daniels shows us how the problem has grown and asks whether government regulators need to take a harder line.
A rope rescue in New York.
In our next report, Spotlight on America returns to San Francisco, where Chris presses the head of the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission about the lack of safety standards to prevent battery fires.
Plenty of time to watch for that potential.
All right, Steve, thanks. Coming up at 6 tonight on CBS 6, concerns continue to grow over the future of school funding here in New York State.
Why the state's education commissioner tells CBS 6 it's going to take time to get it right.
Plus, following the tragic death of a Schenectady baby over the weekend, tonight we learn why it's prompting calls to improve the family court system here in New York.
And former President Trump once again seeks to delay one of his criminal trials, why he says his New York hush money case should be put on hold.
Well, the Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into the Alaska Airlines door blowout.
According to the Wall Street Journal, investigators have contacted some passengers, flight attendants, and the pilots on that January 5th flight. Alaska Airlines says it's typical for the DOJ to conduct an investigation into something like this. The airline doesn't believe it's the target of the probe. Neither Boeing nor the DOJ have made a comment on the matter. The news comes after another string of rough rides for passengers aboard a Boeing aircraft last week.
Yeah, one landing overshot the runway, a wheel fell off another airplane, and an engine caught fire on a third flight. Joe Moreno looked into the turbulent week and asked an expert if these are signs of bigger problems. And Hamilton says Boeing still has a lot of work to do on its safety culture, and public confidence could suffer if the company's commitment to quality doesn't become more transparent.
Well, still to come tonight, continuing coverage of the tragic death of a baby girl in Schenectady.
We'll have details on the charges the child's mother is now facing in that child's death.